Have you ever gotten through the slog of updating hundreds, if not thousands of rows in a spreadsheet, doing VLOOKUP, viewing all your data, double checking it, making sure that it's perfect before you finally click that upload button? And then all that comes back to you is a large list of failures due to simple validation rules. It's really annoying, and I've run into it countless times. I want to make sure you don't. Let's get into it. Hi, everybody. Today, we're going to be tackling the most fun of topics, custom permissions and validation rules. Yay! So much fun. I'm Graham, sometimes affectionately known as Salesforce Yoda. It's due to my 15 plus years in the Salesforce ecosystem. I worked internally at a few companies, Yelp, Google, but I also started my own consulting business to work on other companies you also may have heard of, like Adobe or Ford. Now, over my years of experience, I can honestly say that running into validation rules for data uploads is probably my top 5 worst all-time face palms. It's pretty bad. But luckily, Salesforce did release this feature back in spring 14 to really help us out and solve this problem, which I think should be a best practice. And if you're like, hey, Graham, 14, wasn't 2014 the same year they released American Sniper? Yes, they totally did. And if you're looking at that picture and like, hey, aren't you also like a poor man's Bradley Cooper in that film? I have been compared to that before. Now, you do have to remember, though, that Bradley Cooper gained about 50 pounds. So not only do I look worse than that picture, I'm also the 50-pound plus version of Bradley Cooper. So, take that for what you will. Now, you might be wondering, what are custom permissions? Well, they're special permissions that you can give to pretty much anyone that you make up that are basically exceptions to rules. Kind of like when you wear athleisure on the couch, but that still somehow counts as exercise. Or, if you eat ice cream right in front of the fridge, but only with the door open where that space is, then it doesn't really count against your diet. I'm just saying, those are the rules. I don't make them up. That's just the way it works. That's what we're going with. Go up to Setup. And once you click that, go over to the Quick Find on the left side. The one is always hardest to find. It's on the left side, top left. Type in custom permissions. Click on that. All right, once we're in here, go to New. We're going to type in our first label. I'm just going to call this data load. You can call yours whatever you like. I like to keep it simple. And I'll say this is a custom permission to exclude users from validation rules. I like to make it really complex and not straightforward. All right. During data uploads. Got it. Okay, click Save. All right, so now we've created the custom permission set. All right, so now all we got to do is update our validation rules. I'm going to show you how to do that real quick. So first, I want you to jump in. We're going to go to our object manager and setup. I have one on contact, so I'm going to go there. I'm going to scroll down all the way to validation rules and don't allow uploads. And real quick, we're just going to edit this. And we're just going to add this one line here. So at the bottom, it doesn't really matter what that is there. So just enter down and we're going to type in the insert field portion. So you can go to permissions, data load, the one that we had. Just going to enter in that. And so you want to make sure, obviously, validation rule, so not that permission. Yeah. And then we add that there. Cool. And go ahead and save. Now you get to do 10,000 more. Okay. Now all we need to do is assign those permissions to you. Okay. So whenever you're going to go through a data load, just make sure you go into that permission set that we created and assign it to the right person. This will give that person the permission set that we've created. We'll make sure that that person has the ability to ignore those validation rules. And remember to turn it on and then turn it off. Now, the one thing we don't want to do is just give people endless permissions to skip all of our validation rules. And you're going to get a lot of requests. And I mean a lot of requests. People upload data all the time in your system. You update data all the time in your system. Everyone does. And the last thing we want to do is give someone the ability to skip a bunch of validation rules and just load junk into our system it takes us a really long time to do. You don't want to do all of this work, have gone through all those validation rules to come back and, quite frankly, lose all of that good hard work because you have to do a bunch of other hard work because we forgot to take those permission sets out. It's really important. Load up the permission set, make sure that person tells you that they're done, take it away. It's very key to this whole thing. And that's another best practice that you're going to want to follow. All right, now that we've done all that, here comes the hard part. And I really want to make sure that you understand that I don't really want to do this to you. But here's what we got to do. We got to go in to every single validation rule, and we have to add this one single little line, but you got to do them all. Like, I'm talking every single one. You have to find everyone, go through all your objects, and update that single line on every single validation rules. If that's 10, great. You're off to a good start. If that's, an org where you've been around for, a decade or more and you have like 200 validation rules, yeah, you got to do 200 validation rules. I'm sorry. That's just the way it is. But it'll be a one-time thing. And then, cross our hearts, hope to die. We'll always update them in the future. Every single time. So this always works. Okay, great. You made it. You update everything. Take a deep breath. Give yourself a pat on the back. It's all going to work out, I think, for the most part. Anyway, so here's a few extra things you're just going to want to know as you're doing data uploads. And these are just some best practices that you should follow as you move forward to test this out. So number one thing is, if you are updating any kind of row, like any record at all, back it up. Download it, save it to your hard drive. It'll save you endless amounts of pain. I mean, I've been through this a lot. So just please, please always back up your data before you load it. You want to make sure that if you do run into errors, do not throw away those files. In fact, the easiest thing that you could possibly do is take all your error files, fix all the errors, and then re-upload the error file. This is like the easiest thing to do. And you can do that multiple times. Now, at some point, you'll probably get like 10 rows of errors that happen over and over again. Never personally run into that all the time, but it does really help because then you know the specific rows that didn't work, that that you can update. This is especially important in inserts. For whatever reason, it's like impossible to know which ones succeeded and which ones didn't. If you upload like 1,000 records and only 50 of them fail, you don't have to go to try to figure out by like time code or whatever else happened, like which ones were in there and which ones didn't, because then you'll get a bunch of duplicates if you keep trying to upload that original list. And then you have to go through like the deduplication process if they're not really unique records. It can be really, really painful. But you get this outputted error file. And in that error file, it tells you exactly which records didn't work. And then you can go fix them and re-upload them. So that's my last tip for the day. I hope that was helpful. Thanks, everybody. I hope you learned a lot today. I'm Graham from Cloud Connects. If you want to check out our future videos, be sure to subscribe to the channel. I'm not going to tell you to hit the like button because you guys know how YouTube works. But really, if you do want to see future stuff in there, please subscribe so that we can notify you. The other thing we want to make sure is if you have comments, you want us to cover certain topics or whatever, go down to the comments below and let us know. We really want to hear from you. Thanks. See you next time.